right, we're back again with another episode of Shoot the J. We're on episode 22. To my left, I have Don Jackson. As always, to my below us, we have Tyrone Jackson. Well, the finger roll. All right, going with the finger roll. All right.
On a bitty goal, on a little 6 foot goal, I could do a finger roll.
So let's start off with our normal question. What are you drinking?
All right, so I got a little Irish coffee again. Start off this Saturday right on Sunday. On daylight savings time. You understand? We're already now behind in this place.
All right, Tyrone.
I got a Dos Equis. Dos Waters.
Dos Aguas.
Dos Aguas.
Dos Aguas. Well, I was driving into a place where nobody was wearing a mask the whole time, so I got some hot vitamin C is what I'm drinking. Emergency boost is what I'm drinking. So, okay. After my road trip. But move on with the show. Last night, I got the call from Tyrone to let me know the passing of Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Actually had his name changed on his birth certificate, legally changed to Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Don, I want you to start off because I know he's one of your favorite fighters. Start off with what do you think Hagler's legacy is? Where would you rank him among the top middleweights of all time? And what does his passing mean for the sport of boxing?
Well, he wasn't one of my favorites, but he certainly was a formidable opponent for the likes of Sugar Ray Leonard and Thomas Hearns. Thomas Hearns was actually my favorite boxer. And then Sugar Ray, of course, after that, at that time. But that's when middleweights were middleweights and nobody ran from fighting. And it was an all-out slugfest when Hagler got in the ring. And he had a deadly left like Joe Frazier. That overhead left could come and get you at any time and take you out of there. So, his legacy, I think he was the pound-for-pound best champ from 1980 to 87. That's how long he ruled the middleweight class. And so, just a phenomenal opponent, never gave up, always brought his bravado. That first 3 rounds, or the 3-round fight period, but that first round against Thomas Hearns will live in infamy for how they went after each other in that fight, and people still show it and watch it to this day, Hearns and Hagler. And Hagler prevailed. As we know, Hearns be called Hitman Hearns because he could take opponents out, but because this was a slugfest, Hagler exposed his fragile chin and was able to get him out of there at the end of the 3rd round. So amazing fighter. It's sad that we're losing so many people so soon. 66, died suddenly. It's a loss for the boxing community.
Tyrone?
Yeah, Hagler, he was one of those unsung heroes. He was kind of disrespected. His first fight that he had, he was beating the guy. They called it a draw. The fight against Sugar Ray Leonard was backing up the whole time, hitting him with little pit-pap shots, and they gave it to Sugar Ray Leonard, and he thought he prevailed. The fight that Don mentioned, which was like a war of attrition between him and Hearns, the fight almost got stopped because his eye and his head had such a bad gash from Hearns. It wasn't bleeding in his eye, but he said he knew that the fight could be stopped at any minute. It could have been. And so it was said that Sugar Ray Leonard was standing somewhere after that fight and pointed to Hagler and was like, "We need to do this again." And Hagler told him, "Get a life," because he knew it was going to be a big money fight. And he knew he got cheated out of that first fight, so he didn't want to fight Sugar Ray Leonard again just because of that. And he retired after that, went into acting, moved to Italy, whatever. And so he was also promoted by Bob Arum, which, I already got a bone to pick with Bob Arum anyway about the way he promotes fighters. And Hagler was one of those guys that wasn't flashy. He had a hard hat on when he fought. And so he wasn't promoted correctly. He wasn't promoted and that, Don, to your point, it was like the golden age of fighting. Everybody's going to fight anybody anyway. So, you didn't have to have this bigger than life persona. He had the persona of, just because of his bald head in boxing and his stern disposition and his mean left hook, that he was like this monster of a fighter, and you almost want to root against him rather than root for him, you know. And you just looked at him as the villain that everybody would like to see. But I liked him as a fighter. I thought he was no nonsense, but I thought he was, you know, they just cheated him out of a lot of stuff. His record was 62-3-2, I believe, with 52 knockouts. I mean, that's incredible.
It's ridiculous.
And to say two of those fights, one could have been a draw and one necessarily should have been a win, would have put him at 63-2 and 1. So it's crazy.
You know, I think he came along kind of like Larry Holmes doesn't get the just due that he deserves, you know, because who he came after. I mean, to go from Sugar Ray Leonard, who was this matinee idol, good looks and had the charisma and, you know, spoke well, eloquently, etc., you know, and then to go from that to the opposite, which was no nonsense Marvin Hagler, who didn't want to engage with the press, just like Tyrone said, had a construction blue collar mentality when it came to boxing. I think, like as y'all said, people wanted to root against him just because of the time that he came up after Sugar Ray Leonard. But so far as boxing ability is concerned, I think people lose a lot of what Hagler brought to the table just because he had so much power and he was relentless. He had a lot of herky-jerky movement. He had a lot of feints that he would throw in there before he would hit you. He was a masterful at cutting off the ring, too. He never attacked on direct angles. He was great at cutting off the ring to corner his opponents. His defense was underrated as well. But, you know, you're going to get hit when you fight in the golden age of middleweights. You know, when you fight in the likes of Duran and Leonard and Hearns, your defense and your chin are going to get tested. So far as his legacy as middleweights, I have him in the top 10 middleweights all time. I mean, and it could go up to 5 for what I call the pocket middleweights, when the guys were like, you know, about 160 or so, 165. You know, now the middleweights are 168 or so, something like that, when Roy was fighting in his prime. But I definitely had him top 10 all time. Totally unsung hero, underappreciated in the States. He made his way to Italy, as Tyrone mentioned, and I think he married an Italian woman out there, spoke Italian fluently as well. But just a loss for, you know, another legend in boxing.
What's the guy, Dave, that he fought?
What's that?
Dave, what's the guy that he fought? It was a battle, and everybody was avoiding this cat. He was like one of the strongest cats in the middleweight division, and nobody was fighting. Not Leonard, not Hearns. I can't think of this cat's name.
He fought James the Beast Mugabe, is who he fought.
Mugabe, that's his name.
Who took a lot out of him. It's kind of like that Frazier Ali fight where none of them should have ever fought again. One of those wars that go 15 rounds and they both hurting each other every round. The one that takes about that one night of fighting that takes like 5 years off your life. That's the guy he fought. Now, truth be told, you know, when we talk about ducking and dodging, I always like to be a truth teller on the show. To be honest with you, all of them, in my opinion, ran from Aaron Pryor. I think they all went from welterweight, moved up to middleweight to get away from Aaron Pryor. Because when you talk about a relentless Tasmanian devil, and his Hall of Fame fights with Alexis Arguello were some infamous fights. But to me, they kind of all dodged Pryor a little bit. And they all went to middleweight. Was it because of the money and because you don't want to risk it against a guy like that? But the money was to be made in that middleweight because you had such great competition? Possibly.
I think it was a money issue.
The money.
It was money. Welterweight wasn't pulling the money, but middleweight fights were and all the dollars back then. I mean, the heavyweights were struggling trying to get on the card as much as the middleweights had, you know, fights for days with Duran and Leonard and Hagler and Hearns and, you know, some of the huge Mexican fighters in there.
Oh, yes.
Name right now.
Pepino was another fighter, a Mexican fighter. Was also great. He would have been great if not for those guys you mentioned. He would have been a world champion, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right, and Don, where do you think his? Let me ask you this: where do you think he ranks in middleweights, all the way from Stanley Ketchel back in the 1900s to Canelo Alvarez? Where do you think he's at in that mix?
I mean, I'm with Ty. He's in the top 10. I'm with you and Ty. He's definitely in the top 10. I mean, you can't sleep on Hagler. He's bringing pain to you every night, whether he likes you or not. I mean, if he doesn't like you, he's bringing the pain. But I'm telling you, if he likes you, he's still bringing the pain. So I mean, arguably, he's kind of like Tito Ortiz. I mean, nobody wants to fight that man, and you know the reasons why. You could be dropped at any round at any time. So those are the things you take on when you fighting a Hagler, man. He reminded me of George Foreman a lot.
Mm.
Even though Foreman came after him, it's that style. It's that I'm putting my jeans on, my overalls on, my big, cowboy kickers, going to work, plaid, flannel shirt, throwing hay over my back, hands and lefts on your jaw. Right, lunch pail, right hands and lefts on your jaw. So
right. And of all the guys from Sugar Ray Robinson to Roy Jones to Duran to Stanley Ketchel to Jake LaMotta, nobody's going to look out of all those guys. Nobody's going to look at Hagler and say, this is going to be an easy night. Nobody's going to want to go in there and fight Marvin Hagler out of all those guys. Roy may say, I'll fight Jake LaMotta and keep him on the end of this jab and left hook him to death. Nobody's going to go in and say, all right, I want to fight Hagler today. This is going to be easy work. Nobody's going to say it. They could say it about Leonard because Leonard didn't have the power that Hagler did. They said, well, he's going to pity pat me. He'll run. He's going to make me look foolish and combination me. But the guys won't be afraid to fight Sugar Ray Leonard. Hagler's that guy that everybody on the list is going to say, I don't really know if today's the day I want to go in with Marvin Hagler,
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next topic. I know it's tough to compare people from different generations, different eras, but this has got a lot of Twitter buzz lately. Quinn Cook, formerly of the Los Angeles Lakers, played in high school in the D.C. area from that NBA farm they have in Washington, D.C. that produced the likes of Kevin Durant and Michael Beasley, just about 10 NBA stars coming out of D.C. Quinn Cook tweeted out, he said, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird versus LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Who y'all rolling with is what the tweet said. He said, y'all already know who I got. It has blown Twitter up with millions and millions of comments about that. Guys, I think we're in a unique position because we were around during the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird era. We're still here, avid basketball fans today. I'm going to start off with Tyrone. What is your prediction in a game of 2-on-2? Magic Johnson and Larry Bird versus LeBron James and Kevin Durant.
Easy. LeBron James and Kevin Durant. And I'm an old school cat.
Right.
But the reason why I say it is when you have people who are students of the game, especially LeBron, they're going to do their homework. They've been watching Magic and watching Larry. Now, I can't take away the competitive nature of Magic and Larry Bird, but you have to give, if all things being equal, everybody in their prime, Kevin Durant is a mismatch nightmare for anybody. You can play the most excruciatingly tough defense on Durant, and his sheer size, his sheer mismatch will get him points. Magic Johnson was a 6'9" point guard who, by today's standards, probably would not be in the shape that it would take to play this style of offense that we play now in the NBA. I'm not saying that he could never get into that type of shape, but with hamstring issues and all these different things that he has, you look at what LeBron is doing with his nutrition, his diet, and his keeping up of his health that he's been doing since he's been a young man. He's not even having those type of problems. He's only had 2 seasons where he had an injury and he still played. He was never out a full season. And so with I think it's a great matchup because you look at the parallels. Magic Johnson is a point guard in a forward's body, and then you look at LeBron as a point guard in any position's body. He can play any position that he wants to play. It's high IQ guys. Magic's more of a rah-rah guy than LeBron is. Then you look at Larry Bird as a straight killer offensively. He could pass the ball too. But Isn't that the same thing that we think about Kevin Durant, that he's a straight killer offensively? He can shoot any shot. He can do anything you want. We can say the same thing about Larry Bird, yet without athleticism. It goes down to competitiveness. Maybe, are we saying one game or the best out of 5 or what have you? You'd like to think that the old guys would be able to figure him out. But at the end of the day, it's just overwhelmingly who can match up with LeBron and who can match up with Durant. And I don't think it's going to happen for him.
All right. Don?
I mean, Tyrone mentioned a plethora of points. I mean, how do I back that up other than saying that I could see why they listed those comparisons, because LeBron basically, patterned his game off of Magic in a way that he dishes the ball, he sees the court, he orchestrates the offense, and he's a 6'9" height player himself with awesome amount of talent and abilities. And then Larry Bird was known to get you with both hands, going to the basket, turnaround shots, 3-pointers, falling out of bounds, looping under the basket. And then Kevin Durant. I mean, I saw Kevin Durant recently, a highlight tape of his at Rucker Park, where he scored 66 points. And literally the announcer says, "Here comes I am with the ball, the greatest," when he made a shot. And he was saying that the entire game. And when I said it was a mixture of dunks and 3-pointers and shots and dishes and slams that are happening, so quickly to you. So, I mean, you look at all of these players in their prime and all they've accomplished, but to me, it's easy to call this as LeBron and Durant all the way. There's just no way. I mean, anybody can see that, and you can play little ball with against Magic and Bird. I mean, they can mismatch in the death. Bird will have a tough time out there trying to check LeBron or Durant. Magic, I think, would do a lot better as far as putting his body on the line to keep them from getting anywhere they wanted on the floor. But then the length of Kevin Durant is the ultimate mismatch. He can come down and take one from the half-court line, and you wouldn't think it was a bad shot because his form and the fact that he could make them 9 times out of 10, it's just to me, it's no comparison. And like you said, Ty, you're learning from the greats. They had the ability to learn from the greats. So everything given with what they've learned and their mentality versus Magic and Larry Bird and their mentality at that time, which don't get me wrong, they were fierce competitors. You couldn't take nothing out of Magic. Magic could play every position on the floor, and Larry could score in every spot on the floor. So, but all in all, I give it to the edge to the younger cats.
I try to tell people that don't confuse will with skill, is what I always say. I think this new thing that everybody's talking about, it's not a new thing. It's really the old school guys that always say, never forget the willpower of the Michael Jordan, never forget the willpower of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Willpower is highly overrated. Okay, it's not even a statistic. It's a highly overrated attribute. Do not confuse will with skill. People are going to say that I'm blasphemous for what I have to say. Larry Bird, and particularly Magic Johnson, were not good defenders in the NBA. Okay? They always had to hide Magic on guys because he was a blow-by risk. They put him, when they played Atlanta, they didn't put him on Dominique Wilkins, even though he matched up height and size-wise. They put him on Cliff Livingston. I got a hard drive up here. I remember all those games, who was matched up against who, okay? They didn't put Larry Bird on James Worthy. When it was playing, Worthy was having his way with James Worthy, who could only shoot from the top of the key, was having his way with Larry Bird. And as much as Larry Bird was scoring on Dominique Wilkins, Dominique put 50 on him also. That's that same game that he put 57 or 61, I think it was, in the Lakefront Arena on Dominique Wilkins. So Dominique, who couldn't shoot a J if you locked him up in the gym, put 58 on Bird that same game, okay? These guys play for historically great teams, and when you play 2-on-2, as we all here can attest to, you got to do everything when it's time to play 2-on-2. to me, 2-on-2 takes out the beauty of Larry and Magic's game, which is the team game. Okay. And now I physically have to do all these things. I have to grab every rebound. I have to get every loose ball. I have to make every stop. I got to do help side defense now with LeBron James doing a blow by on Magic. Y'all really think Larry Bird is doing help side defense to come up and try and block LeBron at the rim at the last second? And a guy who's also one of the most willing passers, other than Magic Johnson and Stockton, the league has ever known. And if you do come to help, he's passing Durant for three. I'm like, I don't even see this as a matchup. And it's not a disrespect to Bird and Magic to how great they were. And it's arguably who are greater players. But if we do this the reverse, if we take Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, and their heyday was in the 80s, they're in the athletic prime in the 80s, and then matched him up with guys from the 60s, 20 years before them, okay, or 25 years before them, from the late 50s, do you really think Sam Jones and Bob Cousy, or Bill Russell and Bob Cousy would have a chance against Magic Johnson and Larry Bird? Do we really think that Bill Russell at 6'9" or 6'10" could keep Magic in front of him? And do we really think Bob Cousy could stop Larry Bird from raining jumpers on him? It would be as ridiculous as this matchup is. Don?
I got to add a point in that. Now, I think if we change and bring in a dominant 7-footer into that matchup instead of Bird, then we might have a different ball game. For instance, Kareem in his heyday, Magic Johnson is a whole different ball game against LeBron and Kevin Durant. The reason I say that, Kareem was unguardable in the post.
True.
He had all of those moves where he could back you down and dunk on you. He was kind of like the Giannis back in the day. If you really want to talk about his skill level, other than shooting the three, Giannis does take more threes than Kareem ever would. But the actual ability to score in that 15-foot or under range was totally all Kareem, and you couldn't do nothing about it. So arguably, Magic and Kareem, for the sheer nature of playing so many seasons together, and the size would be a totally different matchup for LeBron and KD. And that could go 50-50. I would never say that Durant and LeBron would dominate that. Not ever.
Don, you're right in that respect, because if you're going to choose matchups, like you said, it is what would be, and that's the thing, the overwhelming problem that you would have is that size versus ratio. And that's why we give the advantage to Kevin Durant, because of his size. But I mean, you can put Steph Curry and Shaq together. You know what I'm saying? Look at that matchup. But you could also put Will Chamberlain and somebody together. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Will Chamberlain was an athletic freak. You know what I'm saying? So his game could transcend any era, really. You know what he can do. Lou Alcindor the same way. Kareem the same way. In his heyday, his athleticism was out there. But you got people like Earl Manigault, you know, who was a physical specimen, could take a cigarette off the top of the backboard when he slammed the ball, you know. So you have so many matchups you can throw in there. But you can also put Kobe and Jordan together. And how's that going to work? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's one of those issues. But I say this. If you ask Magic and Larry Bird are still alive, ask them. And they'll probably tell you. They'll tell you the truth. Right. You know.
Well, I mean, I think the matchup was made because they're all wing players. I mean, we could find a mismatch through history. If we're hunting for guys of yesteryear to beat two particular guys from this year,
we hunting for Don right now. We don't know where Don is.
Where is let's this man is walking. Maybe it's a contract negotiation. He walking off the show till he gets paid. Like, bro, we're going to double what you made last show, bro. Don't even worry about it, bro. 3 times what you did.
We didn't even get no warning on that one. Right? Just lost.
He did like that to him. And then walked off. You know?
Oh, that's what he did?
Yeah, he's back.
It's work, man. Work, you know. That's what we feel.
On a Sunday?
We thought, Don, we thought
when they give you one of these, you on call 24/7, bro. There's no time. Thank you. There's no time where you're not unavailable. When you have these.
Don, we thought you were trying to do a contract negotiation. You walked off like Pierce Morgan. off the show.
Yeah, I was trying to go see if George Gervin would like to play along with Kareem or Dr. J and some of the other dominant centers and see if they would match up against that. Other greats.
This is what I was telling Tyrone. It's like, well, you can find a nightmare matchup from any time period. Like you talked about Wilt or Kareem. Yeah, if you put Wilt out there with Kevin Durant, who can't body up with 7'2", 290-pound Wilt, who had a 50-inch vertical at 7'2". Yeah, but I think they did the matchup because those are wing players, like dominant wing players of the era. Like Bird and Magic were dominant wings, and they match up dominant wings. Now, okay, you want Wilt, give me Shaq. You don't really have anybody matched up with him now other than Joe Embiid or something like that now. But I think they put those together from a perspective of not could guys from the 80s, if you pick the right matchup, could they win? Because those two wing players are dominant wings of their time. Because between those guys, they have 4 MVPs. Larry won 3, Magic won 1. They have 8 championships between Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. They have about 4 finals MVPs, about 6 finals MVPs between those two players. So I think they're doing dominant champions, wing players of the 80s versus the guys in 2010s, etc. Tyrone?
I got a quick question for y'all, and I'm known as an instigator, around things
all the time.
So let's say that Don, you and Dave are pretty evenly matched up. You know what I'm saying? One day Don might be real dominant, Dave might be dominant, but y'all both get about the same amount of points on each other, highly competitive with each other, close to the same height, same build. If y'all had to choose an NBA player to play 2-on-2 against each other, who would you choose to play against Dave, Don? And Dave, who would you play against Don with? NBA player.
Oh, like I could pick a player on my team from the NBA?
Yeah, from any era in the NBA, and Don, you could do the same thing too, but y'all playing 2-on-2.
Woo! Man, I would definitely pick a dominant big is who I would definitely pick. Whether my guys are Kareem and Shaq are the guys that I love centers the most.
You got to choose one, Dave, because you might be taking one that Don might want, right? You got to choose one.
I'm picking Shaq.
Okay.
I'd love to play Shaq. And I'll take me and Shaq versus Don and anybody that he wants in history. Don and Jordan.
I'm a chess man, so strategy is key. So if he's picking Shaq, I got to go Will Chamberlain. Now, if he picks somebody like, a Durant, then I have to go LeBron. If he picks somebody like a Giannis, then I'd have to go somewhere else. So it depends on, I'd have to go Jordan if he picked Dominique.
That's what I'm about to say. I think you would go Jordan, Don.
Yeah, I would definitely go Jordan if he picked Dominique. Now, I might not ever touch the ball again if I have Jordan. It's okay as long as we win. As long as I can point to your brother and say, "You see what happened to you?" And he's gonna be like, "You ain't Michael Jordan." I said, "You could have picked him. You could have picked him too."
But Tyrone, here's the funny part. Let's just say for kicks and giggles, I pick Shaq and Don picks Jordan. Okay. Here's the funny thing that what would happen is I would decide to check Jordan is what I would do. Okay, and then Don would have to check Shaq.
So I want ball first. Y'all will never touch the rock.
Jordan gonna score on me. Okay, but I'm trying to
all day, every day, all night.
But here's the thing: if we get the ball one time, the game is over. Because Don, you going along for the ride with Big Shaq pulling the rim up on you. And if we videotape and have Shaq pulling his knees up on you, bro, it would be worth all the points Jordan scored on me, bro.
Hey, bro, I'll let Shaq dunk on me to see 20 million points scored on you by Michael Jordan.
He's gonna score them too. But the thing is, I got to help side defense with Shaq. If he blows by me, Shaq can come over and help me a little bit. Okay?
And then Jordan's a pass to the Don.
There we go. That's fine. We'll live with that. We're gonna live with that.
Oh.
Still teaching lessons, Ty. I'm 50 years old, but I'm still teaching lessons. They're gonna learn. That's just like the last time we was on the team. And the next week, people was complaining about my play. Next week, I came dominated with my own squad. So we see what happens. You understand?
Oh no! Oh, they was crying now. No doubt they was crying when I missed a week and Don was out there terrorizing the whole league They was calling. They was blowing my phone up. Man, why did you leave us out there, man? When are you coming back? Don't leave us alone like this out here. He was terrorizing the whole league.
You need to run that clip when Godfrey was going to check Don. You walked over there and said, "Hey man, what you doing?" Well, Don was checking me. Oh, you don't check who he check, bro. Go over there. I'm gonna check him. Don was like, "Dang,
he checking. You don't mean we do what they do." Man, I'm trying to win some games. It'll be over real fast. Woo.
Oh
But we
man."
have a consensus on that. Seems like. So our big topic of the day: the New Orleans Saints made some moves this week. Okay, those moves were to release Thomas Morstead, the Jackrabbit, Janoris Jenkins, and also Emmanuel Sanders. What is the strategy? What do y'all think is the strategy behind it? Do you agree or disagree with the moves? What do y'all think the strategy is, and are these good moves or not?
It's a unilateral move around all the NFL. The salary cap went down. Everybody's got to make those kind of cuts. And nobody's going to pick up those guys or pick up people until they fall on the salary cap and see where they fit. So everybody's going to have to do the same thing. The Saints were already, I think they were above the salary cap, right? So they got to make some decisions anyway, because like we said the last episode, the Saints are built to win now.
Yeah.
And that's why Drew Brees is key to this thing. If he doesn't retire, then we're going to be handcuffed for our future. And we're going to be in a rebuilding year where Tom Brady he just signed an extension, didn't he? So he's got 2 more years. 4 years? 4 years. So you got to think at some point, New Orleans, the Saints got to rebuild. You're going to have to tear this thing apart. And so when is that going to happen? You know, I'm a proponent of doing it early while you got to do it. Don't try to believe if we're not made to win the Super Bowl now. You need to blow it up. And if that means that Drew Brees, you need to get somebody in here to continue what's going on, then you need to do that. I don't think Drew Brees is going to be able to take us. So you might as well blow it up now if you're going to let Drew Brees play his final year. I hate to say it.
No.
You know, I think I talked with DW the other day, and I think DW might be right. We're seeing workout videos from Drew Brees. I think he's going to try to play another year. This is why I think, and this point, and he's kind of changed my mind on how this thing looks. And that is, Drew Brees went out bad last year. He went out really.
What they got to do with the Saints? What they got to do with the Saints? Drew Brees went out bad.
Hold on. You know what kind of competitor he is. He does. If he wants to go out, he wants to go out giving his best effort. And I'm gonna tell you right now, it looks like he's coming back. I hate to say it, but it looks like he's coming back. And then the other piece is, okay, we get some wily veterans, some folks got hurt. It's bad moves in our book because, you know, we know if they were healthy, they were keepers, like Quan Alexander, that linebacker. Excellent addition to the Saints from the 49ers. Really gave us a big adrenaline injection in our own on the defense.
Yeah.
Janoris Jenkins, another great player. Quan got hurt. Janoris Jenkins, you look at all the safeties we have, he's arguably in the lower end of that group, but he's still a good defender. So how can how do you cut and make these moves? You got to cut these salary issues. You got to extend them to the point where they don't count as much against you this year as they'll count in later salary caps. And I think the Saints have some ideas about who they're going to go with to fill in some of those missing pieces, like a wide receiver, like losing Emmanuel Sanders, cutting those big tight ends. It's going to be a wait and see mode. One thing we do know about Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton, they are good at identifying talent that other teams can't seem to pick up. I mean, that's how we got Marcus Colston, Lance Moore, several of the offensive tackles we have that are now high-priced commodities because Alvin Kamara, we were able to find these diamonds, so-called diamonds in the rough, and I think that's what they're going to do to try to provide more stability for whoever's at the helm at the quarterback.
Okay, so let me say 2 things. How the hell does Drew Brees' legacy have anything to do with the New Orleans Saints? That's an individual player. Who's the second greatest quarterback of all time? Maybe Joe Montana, right? Okay. Before this last one, I would have said him and Tom Brady's what? I got Brady up there as number one now. Guess what? When Steve Young came available, it was time for – it wasn't about Joe Montana's legacy. It's supposed to be about this team and this organization. We're not supposed to all hinge on one man. Okay.
But Joe Montana got hurt, and that's how Steve Young got pushed to the forefront. Now, remember how that worked.
They traded Young for Tampa Bay because he had ran some crazy 4.3 40 at that position and had the arm strength for Tampa Bay, was languishing. They were waiting to put – they had a guy ready to go when Joe Montana was going to make his decision with a contract move. And he went on to Kansas City and played excellent, got them to the to AFC Championship with Kansas City as older. But they knew his time was ticking away. He was playing since the late 70s, all the way from the 80s. When it got to be 89, we were ready to part ways with him.
You're talking about an organization in San Fran that has a different philosophy. You're talking about an organization in New Orleans that's going to live and die by Sean Payton's moves and decision making. So that is the difference. You have a GM in Lewis who will defer to Sean Payton when it comes to certain personnel decision making, and that's how it goes.
Can I ask this question?
The winningest quarterback of all time, Drew Brees, in the New Orleans Saints area, and you got to say his legacy is tied to his performance here in New Orleans, because we've never seen that level of winning here in New Orleans, so that we could say that one player is going to be disposable. We don't look at it like that down here because we've never had this amount of winning season. It's become a culture now with the Saints beating up on their opponents for the last 15 years, and they're afraid to let go that part of that formula. I might as well tell you.
So can I ask this question? What San Francisco 49ers ever won before Joe Montana got there? They didn't have no history of winning until Joe Montana got there.
Yeah, well, they won more than we did.
They didn't win that. I mean, we were expansion team.
We were perennially lose to San. We lost so much to San Francisco. I hated them. I hated them before I knew.
And why did we lose to San Francisco? Because of Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. It wasn't because they were like the Chicago Bears or the Green Bay Packers.
Before Joe Montana and Jerry Rice got that dog, we was getting our butts kicked by San Francisco.
Yeah, because we were
everybody else in the league. Come on,
we were an expansion team, is why we were getting beat when we started off in 1967 all the way to the early 70s ineptitude. San Francisco was in that when they first started. They didn't have a winning culture D until Walsh and them came in with the West Coast offense, and they drafted Joe Montana, and they got Jerry Rice, and they got a tough defense.
What year was that?
Ronnie Lott and those guys.
What year was that? And I'm talking right around the same time, around the 70s, 75, 76.
No, early.
Can I answer the question?
Early 80s. Go ahead.
Let me answer the question. You only have certain big market teams. There's not enough room to everybody. So you're going to have certain teams that's going to be happy with one championship because they can't compete. San Francisco was a big cog in the wheel of the NFL, a big moneymaker. I attribute what Don is saying, kind of like Dan Marino at Miami Dolphins. Did Dan Marino play too long? Yes. Yeah. But are you going to take Dan Marino away from – he could be he's still serious about the city of Miami. He could be the mayor of Miami right now. But I remember when the coach of Dallas, Jimmy Johnson, went over there and wanted to change the style. His persona was bigger than the whole team and everything. So there was no way they was going to let Dan Marino play for another team. That's why Green Bay was under so much scrutiny when Brett Favre was there, and they had Aaron, what's his name?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers right underneath him. So that debate has been going on for the longest time. Like Don said, is the man has to take himself out the picture, because if we cannot fire him because he is I know what you're saying, Dave, but it's just like the Lakers and Kobe Bryant. He meant so much to the Lakers organization. Could you see Kobe Bryant playing in somebody else's jersey? It just wouldn't be right. And plus, Kobe Bryant was hogging up a lot of money that could have made the team better. But he retired a Laker. Did he stay on the Lakers too long? Yes.
You see Tom Brady change that jersey. We couldn't see Tom Brady in another jersey, did we? And you see he won a ring with Tampa Bay when he got out that jersey.
Right.
And now the narrative is on Tampa Bay because he moved the team. It ain't the Patriots anymore. It's about him. Drew, if you want to play, nobody stopped me from playing. Go play for one of these other teams and show us how great you are. The teams that stay relevant are the ones who know when to move on. Miami hasn't done jack because Marino wore out his welcome too long. Green Bay has stayed relevant from Brett Favre to current because they knew when it was time to move on from the aging superstar. You got to know when to move on. It's time to cut the cord. He's phenomenal. One of the top 5 of all time. That's not an insult to say somebody's top 5.
I gather people are saying the same thing about Aaron Rodgers, Dave. We're not in Green Bay, but they probably saying the same thing. Why are we still holding on to Aaron Rodgers right now?
Let it. Oh yeah, you know why? Aaron Rodgers made the NFC Championship. Did we? Did we?
They got beat by the same people we got beat by.
Yeah, but guess what? Aaron Rodgers could, but they ain't have no running game like we had, and they don't have no defense like we had. And Aaron Rodgers could throw the ball 40-something yards down the field. You ain't have to sub in his backup for him to throw a deep pass, do you?
But they still lost to the same team that we lost to, worse.
I bet you
worse than we did.
I bet you we'll take Aaron Rodgers a straight up trade over Drew Brees.
Oh, I'll take Aaron Rodgers today. I'll take Aaron Rodgers today.
I'll take Russell Wilson today.
Oh yeah, sure. Can you see Russell Wilson?
There's a couple quarterbacks I'd take today just to fill in the gaps. I'd take Teddy Bridgewater today.
The teams that stay relevant are the ones who know how to part with talent when it's time. Superstars or otherwise. Yeah, we didn't win anything till Drew Brees.
But you also got to look at market, Dave. You got to look at market as well. We are not known. We have just gotten to this point. So it's up to Drew Brees to fire. If I was the coach and GM, I couldn't do it. He means too much to the city for him to do because we're a small market team. We ain't never won anything. It's not that long ago that we wasn't the eights where we had paper bags on our head.
Wait. San Antonio will have to move on from talent. San Antonio.
When's the last time San Antonio won?
Well, they've been perennial playoffs for a long time.
That's not the question. When was the last time San Antonio won?
Same time we won. They won one before us. We won in 2009? Their last championship is 2000.
You got the same coach. You got the same coach, the same GM.
We got the same coach, the same GM too. Lomas is the same as Papa.
What team is you naming?
Huh?
What team are you naming?
San Antonio Spurs.
San Antonio Spurs.
They know how to move
on. But you crossing over from basketball to football, bro. We got to stay on football.
We talked about small market teams.
Well, let's compare small market team and NFL.
We talk about small market teams and how they go on with small market teams. They know how to take Tim Duncan and say, you are no longer the focal piece of this offense. And Tony Parker, Ginobili, and Kawhi, you got to do what's right. We need to learn how to move on from you.
Let me add another layer.
Before they got there either. You got to learn how to move on.
And they haven't won since Kawhi left.
Let me give you a help.
They haven't won since Brees been here either. See,
let me give you help on your argument.
You act like we won the Super Bowl last year.
Hold on there, Charles. Let me give you help on your argument. To me, I think the point you're making is like Atlanta with Matt Ryan. It's the same kind of thing that Ryan brought them to the Super Bowl. He got Atlanta a lot of notoriety. It's time for Atlanta to move on for Matt Ryan. I mean, it's the same thing, but is the GM going to make that call with somebody who still can throw the ball like he can? I mean, if you think about Drew's talent, it is accuracy and knowing the offense and knowing other defenses because he's been in the league for so long. He is a student of the game. That's the reliance that a head coach would have on this quarterback is the fact that he has seen everything basically in his tenure playing that position. So now the question is, how ready are you to coach up somebody to fight the likes of the talent that you're playing against in your new division? Your new division, and I say new division because Carolina has beefed up, Tampa, of course, has beefed up, and Atlanta is arguably going to try to make some moves. They've been very quiet. Tyrone probably could speak to the move they are trying to make. So you're looking at, we have more of now the Saints with a defensive mindset, but we've been so used to a quarterback who can read defenses and knows what's being thrown at him so he can manage the game and get us to a win. We have to invest in somebody like that. And like Tyrone said, to his point, until we come out of this small market mentality, We're not going to make that change at quarterback willingly. We're not going to say that out loud. This is Drew Brees' market down here. So we got to wait till he says, I'm finished. I'm hanging up my hat.
Let me
up this year. I've changed my mind. I do agree at one point that he should have, but I mean, if he decides not to, then Sean Payton is going to have to, roll the dice and hope he can keep Winston and Taysom Hill in New Orleans to still back him up in case the inevitable happens where he gets hurt and he can't come back. And I think that's what they're going to rather live and die by.
Oh my God!
Go out here and trade for either big talent or let Brees go and owe him the contract money and nurture what you have in a quarterback situation room that you have now.
Let me say this about coaching up somebody new. You say, are they willing to really invest in coaching up somebody new? They sure coached up Taysom Hill to get us five out of 6 wins in Drew Brees, and he's not the talent that the Sean Watsons of the world are. Okay,
it's 4 out of 5.
Well, 4 out of 5. Okay, they sure coached up Bridgewater last year, and he got 6 wins for you. 6 out of 6. He won every game he started, not when he got subbed in.
But again, we discussed that was it coaching or was it adjusting the offensive philosophy?
That's coaching.
Well, I mean, okay, but I mean, I don't think that was more of coaching up. I think that was more of tailoring your offense to the actual skills and attributes of that player. So, is it coaching somebody to fit in your style that you already have planned? I don't think so. I think it's more of I'm gonna adjust my style to fit the talents of this quarterback. So that's where I just
all coaching is adjustments. That's what we talk about all the time. All coaching is recognizing something and making an adjustment. They're doing this. Now we need to do this. I don't have this guy, so now we need to slow down the offense. When Kyrie and Kevin Love got hurt, went out, they slowed the offense and ran the offense, which was a motion before them, to LeBron at the elbow. That's all coaching is adjustments. Yes, we sure coach those players to victory. Number one, and the Matt Ryan thing. One, Matt Ryan is younger, but correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Atlanta go to the Super Bowl before Matt Ryan got there? I remember them going to the Super Bowl with everybody doing a dirty bird with
Jamal Anderson,
a running back, and Collins, who's the Chandler is the quarterback.
Yeah, Chandler. I can't think of his last, but Chandler's his last name. Yeah,
Chandler, Eugene Robinson. They made the Super Bowl before, so Matt Ryan not the end all be all that brought them the heights they had never been to before. They got to the Super Bowl before and lost to the St. Louis Rams, if I'm not mistaken, a decade.
But it's a small market like the Saints, but Matt Ryan has brought a level of consistency that they hadn't had before either. They had some good teams, even when Bobby Abad played.
What about Michael Vick? Did he bring him the notoriety that Michael Vick brought him? That nobody was ever had an Atlanta Falcons jersey on outside Atlanta till Michael Vick. All the kids in the hood across America had a Michael Vick jersey.
That's the Iverson effect. You're going to have people who identify with this urban kid. And if you really look at what Atlanta did with Michael Vick, it wasn't as consistent as it should be, but he transcended football with he was a big money maker for everybody. That's why Michael Vick can't be compared. He could go anywhere. You saw what he did when he came in with the Giants, in Philadelphia.
He so, Philadelphia too.
Yeah. So, I mean, that made Atlanta a lot of money because there's a lot of everybody, it's the same call that Atlanta did when they had Luka Doncic and he traded him for Trae Young. Well, you look at that. Luka Doncic could have instantly got them with the players that they had in the playoffs. But because Trae Young is a young black kid with swag or whatever, they looked at that being a better move for Atlanta. So, the demographics and everything goes into it. Like Don's point, if this was the Lakers, you wouldn't worry about if it was Luka or Trae Young because you're not trying to appeal to a demographic for your market. You're trying to look for the championship, and that's what the Lakers look for, and that's what the Celtics look for. And smaller teams can't compete with that. Greg Popovich is still the same man, but they're not going to win another championship because they're not trying to get the player that it takes to win in the NBA now. It's a small market team. It's not championship or bust. If Greg Popovich was on the Lakers and he hasn't got to the championship as many years as he has with San Antonio, he would be fired today. He would be fired with the Lakers because it's a different market. He's got longevity with the San Antonio Spurs. And maybe this is the same argument. Maybe Popovich needs to sit down because maybe his coaching style is not winning them anything in this NBA. But who's going to fire Popovich from San Antonio because of what he meant to their team? The same thing with Drew Brees. Who is going to fire Drew Brees for what he's meant to our team? Drew Brees needs to take himself out of the equation. But I'm not going to fire him. He deserves to play out his last year. He deserves the opportunity. I don't agree with it. But if anybody was Drew Brees working out last year? I don't know if he was. If he's working out this year, I got to say, well, maybe the man is putting in some time. Maybe he's putting in some focus that we didn't know he had before. You know.
Let me say this about.
I got to give him the opportunity. I can't fire him.
Let me correct myself first. The only other person with Atlanta jersey besides Michael Vick was Deion Sanders. Everybody had the Deion Sanders jersey when he played for Atlanta Falcons. So he was that transcendent guy also that Atlanta had.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say one of my favorite movies is Any Given Sunday. If y'all remember the scene with Al Pacino, where Willie Beeman goes to his house, coach's house, and he's trying to talk Willie Beeman into playing his style of play. And when they have an impasse, he says, I'm going to bench you and I'll play Cap. And Willie Beeman says the line, okay? And he says, you want me to go to the bench for the greater glory of Cap Rooney, is what he says, for Dennis Quaid's character. You want me to go. It's not about winning anymore. It's about this one guy's legacy. How many guys or primes are we going to wipe out for Drew Brees' legacy? He's not the only player out there. He's not the only guy getting concussed and getting hits to the head. How many men are we going to sacrifice? Cam Jordan has been one of the best defenders in the NFL for the last 5 to 6 years. How many years of his prime are we going to waste because of somebody else's glory? He ain't playing it by himself out there. How many years of Michael Thomas, who was indestructible, now we're starting to see him get little injuries here and there? How many players prime? Alvin Kamara is a great player. Lattimore is a great player. How many are we going to wait for one guy?
Okay, you finished whining?
No, I'm whining. I'm upset. I ain't whining.
We hear your point, and we hear the violin strings, and Ty was just plucking. I mean, we could just
play it on the keyboard, Tyrone.
There's another thing that you mentioned that you didn't mention that is important noting. Life is complicated, and if it's easy as ABC, we would have made those moves a long time ago. But it's not as easy as ABC 1, 2, 3. Life is complicated.
And since you're talking fantasy with Any Given Sunday, what we don't know is what happened that next season when Willie Beeman and Al Pacino got together. You don't know if they won or lost. You don't know if the other team, because they held on to the other quarterback in their system, which you had a GM in Cameron Diaz who was forward thinking and had a coach that was offensive minded. So you don't know what happened the next year. Maybe they won. Maybe Al Pacino and them lost with Willie Beeman. So
that's my point.
Can't say.
That's my point, because the point is you got to move on from the aging quarterback and go with the young gun, which is Willie Beeman. You can't just live and hinge everything on the.
Oh yeah, well, what happened with Brett Favre? When Brett Favre the next year he played with Minnesota,
we beat him. That's what happened to Brett Favre.
But everywhere you went,
we beat him, and the Saints won the Super Bowl that year because he was the old guy.
But they lost on the field goal. But here's the thing:
they lost on an interception that he threw that set up the field goal.
But listen, but no, their first field goal, Gary Anderson missed the field goal that would have won the game against the Saints. Yes. Go back and look at it.
No, they changed the rules. Gary Anderson missed the field goal that would have made Brad Johnson, Minnesota Vikings beat the Atlanta Falcons. Gary Anderson didn't have
that was Randall Cunningham.
Okay, Vikings. The Randall Cunningham, Minnesota Vikings, whatever. That's the field goal that he missed to send them to the Super Bowl. It didn't come down to that because they changed the rules on the Saints the next year because it said if when one person gets a field goal, it will give the other team another chance.
But here's my point. Brett Favre still.
Gary Anderson in this field goal.
I agree that it's time to move on. I agree with you, but as an organization, I cannot cut the man. I got to give the man a chance. I got to give him a chance.
Bye.
Complication.
He's got to take, and we already know this about Drew Brees, that he doesn't take himself out of a situation. I think that's his weakness out the blue right there, where the team is going good. He can't say, will I add something to this by doing this, by going in? He should just wait, and rest up. You saw when Teddy Bridgewater was doing well. He rushed himself to get back because he wanted to be the one in control of the team. He should have waited and relaxed and get all his injuries together. But he doesn't have that mindset. I'm sorry. But
I'm going to say something else, too, that people might not agree with. But there's a level of comfortability that you have knowing that you have somebody behind the huddle that's going to take all excuses away from the rest of the team. Now, when I say that, this is going to be the person that you're going to blame if it goes down. And all offensive players know it too, that Brees is going to take the blame. They're not going to blame anybody else. They're going to blame Drew Brees. And so ultimately the coach has that maturity, that understanding to know that, okay, I got the guy. If it's going to go good, hey, 9 times out of 10, it's going to go well. But when I get to these other areas, if we make a mistake, what have you, it's going to go wrong. It's on his head.
Don, it's easy to take the blame when nobody's blaming you here in New Orleans market. Brees could throw 5 interceptions. Nobody ever blames him.
Oh, that's not true. That's not
what
true.
about the tight end that dropped the ball?
A lot of people blaming him. I think a lot of people feel the same way we do.
Fans.
I'm talking about fans.
Yeah, fans. But you don't get no flack from the local media. The local media doesn't blame anything. They'll blame Jared Cook. They'll blame for fumbling the ball. They'll blame Sean Payton for a play call. They'll blame even the little poor kicker who was like the most accurate guy in the world who missed 2. They'll blame anybody, but
no, I disagree. I listen to WWL 870 all the time, and they blame Brees a lot.
Who is they? The fans call him
Bobby Hebert, Pokey guys on. Well, before he passed, and some of these other cats.
Bruce McAllister blames him.
Oh yeah. I listen to them all the time, and I can tell you, they do blame Brees when it's his due to be blamed.
You could win with an aging quarterback who could throw the ball 20 yards. Ask Peyton Manning. Remember his last year when he played with the Denver Broncos? He couldn't throw the ball more than 20 yards, and he won.
That's the other thing. You got somebody in your division that's 2 years older than you that's still high performing.
I need to take that TB12 though. Huh? I need that TB12. Whatever he's taking.
Hey, well, he's a vegan and he's doing a whole lot of other things. I need to look into his diet because
I got to get that TB12 program. I need that TJ. I need that TJ21.
No.
Put me in, coach. Put me on that regiment. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming back. I'll be at Franklin's gym doing all kinds of things.
Say, bro, let me tell you. We keep talking about his last year, getting him out his last year, and it's a tough call for the organization. They should have never gave him a 2-year deal to begin with. So you don't have to make this call today. You give him the 1-year deal last year. This is your we talk about Kobe Bryant. This is your Kobe Bryant tour. This is your last year where we go from city to city and everybody's going to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance and Drew Brees because you know how they put those two together. Drew Brees, the most patriotic in the world all of a sudden. So
hot off the press. Hot off the press.
Flyovers.
While are you talking? Hot off the press from the New Orleans Saints organization.
Get him out.
Returning.
What?
Drew Brees has announced he's returning for another season. I lied. I just wanted to see his reaction.
Don't play around, bro. Don't play around, bro. Do not play around.
Got him.
Bro. Got him. Dude, he picked up the phone and everything like he was really reading something too.
Hot off the press. He's back.
Don, I was about to say, this episode of Shoot the J brought to you by Donald and Tyrone Jackson. Cue the music, boom.
Contract. They should have gave him the 1 year in your farewell tour. We're gonna have the F-16s fly over. We're gonna give you a salute in every city. We're gonna give you the key to the city. We're gonna make you the GM, the talent.
Tell him to do it this season, Dave. Huh? Tell him to do it this season. That's a good marketing campaign. Tell him to do it this season.
Well,
I don't want him to do it this season.
I
want last season to be the farewell season.
You should have came up with that idea for him.
I think after I got it real good, I think I'm gonna have to do the wrap up. Well, we want to thank you for joining us. Episode 22. We gotta move this thing along.
How about closing the show and wrap it up like Jamie Foxx? Say something nice about Emmett and wrap it up.
Right.
I'm your conscience.
Don got you. You gotta put that one in there.
Well, I was mad, bro. I was so mad, bro. I was like, I know you're not doing this.
Just make his seat explode, Doc.
Hot off the ticket tapes.
I'm gonna say this. I think they're making these moves to bring in somebody. I don't think they're making salary cap moves. I think they're making salary.
Everybody's got to make it, Dave.
No,
everybody's got
Everybody got to make it, and they dropped the amount of money they have to come under.
Wait, I understand that everybody has to, but I think the reason the Saints are doing it, not just to get on the cap, is to sign a guy like Watson or Russell Wilson. That's what I think they do.
I don't think that's happening. We can't afford
bringing him back.
We can't afford him, and we're not willing to leverage half our team for him. I'm telling
you. I would love for it to be what you're saying, Dave. But you already owe me a couple of dinners already, you know. So
I owe you. You
already getting that Hawaiian steak and bacon.
I haven't got my Hawaiian steak yet, you know.
Well, I know I owe you one. What I owe you the second one for? Huh?
I don't remember, but I know you owe me one.
I do. And what was that one for? I forgot that was.
That's for the program.
Probably was losing in pool.
For the funeral program. That's what
the program. Yeah.
Probably for losing in pool.
Probably was losing in pool too. Yeah.
No, I don't bet no money on pool. I'm not good. I'm not good to bet money on pool.
You bet dinners on that. You bet dinners. A 2-piece fight.
No, the last one I bet with Tyrone, he's almost killed me when I had to carry him in the parking lot when I lost him in pool. And he got on my back and I could walk to the car. I was like, I'll never do that.
I didn't take it easy on him too. I slumped right over. All right.
Guys. Good episode today, Spirited Debate. Don't forget to like and share, shoot the J, everybody who's watching. We'll catch y'all next week. It'll be episode 23. We have a lot to talk about. Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury look like they've come to a deal with their negotiations. They just have to sign the paperwork. Hopefully that deal will be done next week. And that'll be one of the topics for next week. But Don is holding a salute. Looks like he is ready to go. Tyrone is as well. And we will see y'all next week on Shoot the J.